Well, hello there, and I bring you greetings from Bethany United Church of Christ in Claremont, North Carolina, where no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. This Sunday here at Bethany, we've actually been celebrating Church World Service Blanket Sunday. If this is something new to you, I would certainly encourage you to learn a little bit more about Church World Service and some of their ministries and missions. But one of the things they do is provide blankets when people are in need. And that need might look different, whether it's after disasters or displacements or folks who are just experiencing hard times in their lives. But I would encourage you to learn a little bit more about Church World Service and their blanket ministry if you are have never heard of it before. We'll put the website up here for you to take a look at if you so choose. But this is something, it's an annual appeal we do here at Bethany to help support the work and mission of Church World Service. So at that link, you can make contributions if you would like to support their work along with us. We would certainly welcome that. But that's important for you to know because the sermon today reflects a lot on blankets. And to get into that, I want to share a little bit from my experience serving as a hospital chaplain. When I would be at the hospital on an overnight shift, one of the places where I ended up spending a lot of time was in the emergency department. And while there, the requests, the needs of patients would vary. Some folks would want me to pray with them. Some would want me to help, connect them to family or find their family in the waiting room. Some might want to talk about what they're going through. Some might want you to leave them alone, and that's okay. But there were two requests that were the most common in the emergency room. It was a drink of water and a blanket. Now, that request didn't come to just us as chaplains. That request was one that nurses, techs, pretty much anyone from the hospital who went into their rooms would get these requests when folks were thirsty or when they were cold. And of course, the medical staff, they're doing a whole lot and sometimes might be stretched a little thin. And so the requests for something like a drink or for a blanket can sometimes fall down on the to-do list, right? As more urgent medical needs come up for those staff members. But for me, I always felt like I could take those requests and put them near the top of my list, that I was able to step in that way and offer those elements of care and compassion that people were in need of. Now, of course, the drink was always a bit tricky because you first had to check with the nurses. There are many reasons why somebody in the emergency room may not be allowed to drink. Waiting on tests, having a surgery is coming up later that same day. So there are a lot of reasons that someone might be on restrictions for food and drink. So you'd have to check that out with the nurses first. But if it was clear, we'd be able to share a drink with folks. And I always thought that was really a cool element of ministry. A ministry of water feels very close to the gospel call to me. But today, since it is Church World Service Blanket Sunday, I want to focus a little bit more on the second request, the request for a blanket. Now, of course, we all know how useful blankets are, not just to us, but to humanity as a whole, right? There's the obvious use, which is for when you're cold, right? But there are plenty of other uses for blankets. Go back to like our very beginning. As babies, what do we do when a baby is maybe feeling uncomfortable, is a little fussy? The swaddling in a blanket creates this space of safety and security, right? And part of me thinks that as we get older, we don't actually shed that sense of a blanket being a place of comfort. We may not get swaddled anymore, but in many ways we still lift up blankets as being a really important part of what gives us comfort and care. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know who, even on the hottest day of the summer, still need to cover with a blanket, right? And it's because that's where we feel safe, where we feel secure. Think of after somebody's gone through a traumatic experience, say like a car crash. What is something that first responders will do pretty early on? Get a blanket around the person. And of course, there are medical reasons for that, and I don't know a whole lot about all of that, but connected to, shock and wanting to keep the body temperature up because of that. But there's also some psychological effects of having a blanket put around you when you have just gone through something traumatic. It can feel like a hug, and it can feel safe. It can help reduce our anxieties in those moments. The point is, blankets have a very important role in our lives and in humanity. And this is no different in the hospital settings. Now, if you've ever been to an emergency room, you likely know that they're often colder. So folks wanting a blanket is a pretty common need. So whenever I would get this request, I would go find the closest warmer. They have these big units that kept the blankets nice and toasty. And I would grab what I needed, a blanket or two, maybe three, just sort of depending on the need. And I just have these distinct memories of bringing the blankets back and helping unfold them and drape them over the patient. And I can't tell you how many times I saw someone relax a little, or you saw some tension leave their bodies, even some anxiety slip away. The same can be said for family members who are in the rooms with their loved ones in those times, even though they themselves might not be getting a blanket. When they see their loved one being cared for in this way, there's often a little bit, again, release of tension, anxiety, relaxing a little bit more. And in that moment, as they are, of course, still facing whatever brought them to the emergency room, right? The blanket hasn't fixed that. But it has given some comfort. And it's almost like, I don't know, it always felt like there was a bit of a settling in, trusting that they're in a good place where they're going to get a lot of good care and love and compassion as they are seen through what they are what they're experiencing. After all, like blankets all throughout our lives, it was a tangible act of love. It wasn't just a blanket. It was also a reminder that there was good care around them. As we reflect on our scripture lessons from today, especially as we look at the teachings of Jesus, which remind us that we are salt of the earth, we are light for the world, I can't help but think how blankets are one of those very tangible ways that we can live out the gospel call. Jesus says we're salt of the earth, and as salt enhances flavors when it comes to food, we're called to enhance the goodness that is existing in our world. As salt preserves goodness, we're called to preserve human dignity, called to preserve justice. Jesus says that we are the light of the world. As light illuminates the dark places, we are called to be such hope in the midst of challenging circumstances. Our faith is not called to be hidden away in the walls or confines of a church, but it must shine as we go out into the world. And this light that we are called to share, this is about shining in real and tangible ways that changes the lives of those around us in small and grand acts of love lived out. As we see in our reading from the prophet Isaiah, he talks about the light that we are called to shine. And this light is not one that's about personal piety. It's not about having, convincing theological prose that you share. Rather, it's about tangible love that transforms lives. This light, according to Isaiah, is one that should loosen the bonds of injustice and help remove that which pushes down and that which oppresses. This light is one that feeds the hungry, that houses the unhoused, that clothes the naked. This light is about meeting the needs of those who are going through hard times. These are the longings of our God for us who are made to be salt and light. Faith in actions of care and compassion, it's vital to the Christian way of life. And so as we hold those affirmations that Jesus offers to us today, reminding us that we are salt, we are light, let us also remember that in order for salt and light to be effective, something has to be done with it, right? Our lives need to be doing things too. Salt can only enhance the flavors of food when it's being added to the food, right? Light can only illuminate when it's not hid away. A blanket, it can only warm when it's wrapped around another. We, as followers of Jesus, can only do what we have been designed to do when we step out into the world and love through our actions. Before the winter storms that we have experienced over these last 2 weekends, and this would have been, I think, before the first storm that came and hit this region, but also impacted a good chunk of the U.S. with freezing temperatures, precipitation of varying wintry kinds, and just created some challenging and dangerous conditions for many of our neighbors, and that put people at risk. Church World Service was busy getting blankets positioned and ready. There's an article on their website that talks about just before the storm started, 1,000 blankets were moved to South Carolina so that they would be ready to help care for people and help provide warmth and comfort and care. And this is a quote from that article on the Church World Service website. It says, "Moments like these are why CWS blankets exist. During winter storms, shelters, churches, and community partners open their doors to neighbors seeking safety and warmth. A simple blanket becomes more than protection from the cold. It becomes a visible sign of love and care when it is needed most." Beloved people of God, you are the salt. Enhance the goodness that is experienced in this world, that is lived out. Enhance justice and preserve it. You are the light. Do not hide that away, but let that light help the world to see the vibrant colors of humanity and leave no one in their own darkness. You are a blanket. Don't stay folded, tucked away, but wrap yourself around the world. Wrap yourself around a neighbor. Care for another. For this is why the church exists, to live out tangible acts of care and compassion. So let us be salt and light, and maybe even blankets that the world needs today. So be it, and may it be so. Amen.